Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, but most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, there is a link in the info box below this video. Simply mute the page you are currently watching to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please do not swear. If you do, you will be ejected, and if you are, please do not try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. In a moment, I'm going to transition straight across to the Hangout as we do have a couple of guests waiting. But in the meantime, if you are in the live stream now, please share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to this channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. And with that, I will introduce, first of all, our guests who are with us on Skype. So I think we've got... Who have we got in Skype? Anybody going to say hello? Hello, we've got Sleeping Warrior. Anybody else going to say hello? Maybe some silent participants on Skype we shall see.
How are we?
Very well, thank you.
Looking forward to a great reveal later.
Yes, Flat Earth QED.
Yes, the time has come.
We've got a couple of guests in the Hangout, so I'll just say a quick hello to them before we get into conversation. We have Aaron and Ranty. How are you doing, Ranty and Aaron? Either one of you, if you want to come off mute. Aaron, how are you doing?
Good. Good morning.
Good morning to you too. And how are you doing, Ranty? Maybe you're AFK.
Yeah, I think he's going to get in a brew.
Fair enough.
What do you know, Aaron? Found any curvature yet?
He knows he's been sniped already.
You joking?
No, I'm not joking.
Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron. I was looking in the back chat, but I must have been sniped out the back chat already myself. Oh, well. So it's not just a boycott, is it? It's actually a boycott with sabotage.
Yeah, they want to walk away, and it's like if you get thrown out of the nightclub and then you go back later with a Molotov cocktail and set the place on fire. You go, well, if I can't be here, no one else will be. That's what they're basically doing. But it's not going to set this hangout on fire. You know, that's not possible.
Must be a bit naff to be a ball earth at the minute, because they can't prove curvature. They've had how many shows now? Probably 30 shows on the Isle of Man. They've not been able to debunk it because there's a load of missing curvature. Now they've resorted to retreat in the guise of boycott. But not only is it boycott, it's like they're deliberately trying to sabotage it. So basically what that means is they cry that they don't get... Let's just
see if I can say hello to Ali B before I get sniped. How are you doing, Ali? See if you can get one word in. No, but it's been sniped. Can you add Ali to the Skype call?
How do you know it was a real Ali?
I don't, but if he doesn't want to join the call, he just won't. So, you know, Ali's a friendly.
Okay, I'll add Ali to the snipe call. The snipe call.
I like the Skype call.
Yeah. Add people to this call. Where ID? There he is. So Ali B has been sent a request to join the Skype call. He always has a crap connection though. That's the only problem with Ali.
That's all right. We'll battle on.
So basically, it sucks to be a baller at the minute because we've got a great reveal coming and it's massive. They've had 30 hangouts in which to disprove, discredit, debunk, or otherwise cause problems, and no one has been able to do it. Yet they're all claiming victories because they're all identifying farmlands. None of them understand parallax. They've not understood how to correct for it. And basically, it stands on its own merit. You can argue exactly where I was if you want to. You can argue the heights. Doesn't really matter. You're going to need to find 2 miles of curvature to explain why we're seeing island, boys and girls. 2 miles.
You're not going to reveal the juicy bit that comes later, are you? You're not going to reveal that on this debate, are you?
I'm not. Not going to do the reveal yet, no.
Okay.
But I just wanted to point it out that these ballers... Oh, shut up. I might have to go on silent here because someone's coming in. Hey, I'll come back to you in a sec.
Okay, no bother. Yeah, there's going to be a reveal later on this evening, so there will be a show that will be titled Flat Earth QED. The Earth is obviously and observably flat, and there'll be quite a few revelations in that show that people were... Well, we were unaware of till yesterday, if we're brutally honest, but like when you're examining this picture, let's just call it a picture for ease, you often come across things that you don't expect. You know, that's why there's so much contention about it, because we're trying to debate it in ourselves as well as with the opposition in terms of what we're looking at, where things are, how the lie of the land actually is, and it's very, very difficult. But as you do that, you see more and more detail as you recognise things up and down the coast on this picture. So for me now, the picture looks completely different to how it looked when I first saw it. To me, when I first saw it, it was just a blob of messed up land. You know, no offence to the picture quality, but it's just you don't know what you're looking at, so you can't identify anything. Now, the picture, especially since it's had a few adaptations, various different contrast levels to bring out some of the details in it, it's like looking at... It's an amazing image now. You know, it looks really, really detailed because I know precisely what I'm looking at. You know, we've really nailed it down in terms of where these locations are, what's happening in the image, and yeah, it's an amazing thing. But during that process, Ranty came across a detail in the image that we had absolutely no idea was there, and you know. Truth be known, you know, a few of us got drunk last night based on that discovery. It was an exciting time, you know. So, you know, a few of us had a drink. I don't normally drink, but I did last night because it was worth it. You know, it was worth celebrating. So we had a little celebration yesterday evening, and up until then, you know, Chris, the guy who's been doing the modelling, has been, you know, refining it and getting it more and more detailed. And he hasn't been hesitant to release it. He just wants it to be as good as it can be when it is. And by not holding back, but by taking his time with it and making sure he's dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, he's got it to the point now where it's ready to be presented, but with a twist, you know, with a detail that no one anticipated in the presentation, which will be well worth watching. So yeah, I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but ultimately speaking, it's going to be well worth tuning into Flat Earth QED. It was anyway. To be perfectly honest, I mean the issue that we've had while we've been looking at this image is that it's scaled differently on each side of the argument. So the globe side have scaled it such, the photograph, the composite, has been scaled in their model so that it's not actually including the entirety of the Isle of Man, and in reality it is. We were on the Flat Earth side, or Chris was and Ranty was, to be more accurate, again scaling it very differently. It's been done both ways now, so you know, we've sort of falsified what the globers were doing with their scaling of the model. That's been falsified by us basically scaling it the same and testing it, and it fails. You know, there's for several reasons it fails. It doesn't work basically. So that scaling is incorrect and has been falsified, and now it's the correct scaling, which we didn't get right initially either. You know, it's difficult to know how you're scaling this image. Not only that, you know, it's right down to figuring out the optics of the camera and how they are functioning at full zoom. You know, so we're getting right down to the wire in terms of the length of detail that we're going to when modelling this. I say we like it's me, and it's not. But when Chris has been modelling this, and when Ranty's been alongside him, you know, cross-referencing Google Earth in terms of how it works versus how a camera works, you know, we're really getting down to details that I had no fathomable concept would ever get close to looking at in order to explain this image in the kind of detail that it'll be explained later. And to put a really fine point on it, it is an exceptional Flat Earth proof. There's no other way of detailing it. It's a globe Earth killer as well. You know, it will be something that will be fascinating to both sides of the argument, either from the globe point of view, so that they can flat out deny it and have scream blue murder, or realise the obvious and observable reality of the world that we live in, and that's that it's flat. And this image now, I will put the word proof after it, because it is proof of a flat Earth. There's no two ways about that. But yeah, that's my little waffly waffle. Anybody going to join me in talking Skype, or is that me talking for the next half an hour?
No. I've got Dave from Wales that wants to join the Skype call. He's from Thrive's channel. He's verified. He's kosher. Is it okay to add him to this Skype call?
Say that again, Mike. It's making quite a lot of noise.
Sorry. Dave from Wales wants to join. He's from Thrive's channel. He's one of Thrive's subs. Is it all right to add him to this Skype call?
Yeah.
Because he joined and then got kicked straight away.
Yours, that's fine. We've got a guest in the hangout as well. I don't know if we'll get any conversation out of Spurs Schemo, but if we do, no, he's been kicked already. Sorry about that, Spurs.
If you want to join the echo chamber, just shout me on Skype and I'll add you on Skype, Spurs. The other thing to observe, right, it's not just the fact that we've spotted something that's been missing. It's not just that we've spotted something. It's that the ballers have failed to spot that something's there. And that's for me, that's the glory moment, because it's like we're doing it manually based on the evidence. They're doing it based on Rumpus's maths. And Rumpus has changed his position a few times. And they've been documented. I mean, he's literally changed his position twice. And that was all based on maths. And my position is, no, we don't base anything on maths. We base everything on evidence. And that's where I've been. I mean, it's no secret. And I want people to be aware that we have had disagreements over this, because we have had, I've got my view, which is, no, it has to match the evidence. And other people's views aren't necessarily of that same kilter. And I'm not saying theirs is better or worse than mine, but I'm saying if it doesn't match the evidence, it's wrong. That's my position. So we have had disagreements on it. We've had moments where we've rage quitted on each other, and we've had to have some peace mediator go back in and say, hey, come on, let's get it back on track. And that's what we have had to do. However, that being said, it's the failure of the ballers to spot this piece of evidence that's really symbolic, because it shows that their maths is not doing what they think their maths is doing. And it's glorious. It really is glorious. David, welcome.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. My tag in YouTube is Music Man.
We saw you join the hangout and then get sniped immediately. We've also been joined by Tim Osman. Can you hear us, Tim? You're on mute at the moment. No. Either been sniped or AFK. But good to have you here, Music Man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I did try rejoining the hangout, but it said I was blocked then, so hence this route.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's they're not just boycotting; they're trying to set fire to, and it's funny because they get given the link to join, and they complain that everything becomes an echo chamber. So Nathan goes out of his way and goes the extra mile and a half to work round all the hassle that they get for giving the link out publicly. And the echo chamber, it looks like it's being put back in place. So Spurs, you've got a link to if you want to join the Skype call, so to join the echo chamber. In the meantime, I'll just put myself on quiet for a bit so that David can speak.
You might as well just wave a white flag in the air.
Well, yeah, they have. This is them beating a retreat.
Yeah. I tell you what, it's become apparent to myself after watching the last 20 or so debates regarding the Isle of Man and Ireland, is that in Cardiff, you can always see Weston-super-Mare from any beach in Penarth or Barry. You can see the English coast. You can see the 7-second crossing from any part of the coast in Cardiff, Penarth and Barry, all of which should be, hidden by the curve. And this is every day you can see the second 7 crossing.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that we all don't realise we can see, because we're told it's a ball. Now, the fact of the matter is, when I did that observation, I did it as a tourist. I didn't do it as a flat earther. I did go up there with the intention of doing something flat earthy, but I couldn't find what I was looking for. So that was like mission abort. I couldn't see what I was looking for. Now I realise I probably could have seen it. I just didn't give it enough time or effort to look for it properly. So now I'm curious as to what's actually possible with regards to the original observation that I wanted to do, which was Blackwell Tower from there, which is 50 miles away. But now I realise that we're seeing Southern Ireland, and it's like, it's that far. It's supposed to be behind 2 miles of curvature. And there's no amount of bendy maths and Paul's maths and standard refraction and all that rubbish. No amount of that can bring all that back. You've got, for me to see what I can see, evidenced in the photo, I've got to be stood 2 miles high in the sky. And guess what?
I think the ballers were just prolonging the debates and bringing up, points which didn't really make any sense with regards to where it was, if it was Douglas or not. It's all besides the point. None of it should have been seen anyway.
Aye, but to be fair though, if we had Douglas wrong, if we'd misidentified Douglas, it did change the scale to reduce it down so that the field of view was Isle of Man only. And we concede and agree that that's exactly what the effect of it was. If we did misidentify Douglas, it did do that. However, my position was, and I've stood my ground against all of the criticism. I'm applying what it says on Google Earth for the height because that's their model. I don't care what that height on the Ordnance Survey map does because I'm not trying to debunk the Ordnance Survey. I'm trying to debunk this rubbish nonsense that they called Google Earth because that is their working model. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So it's essentially as bad as the AE map. That's how bad it is. If it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, when they all say about the AE map all being centered around the North Pole and all being squashed up, well, if you can't get your altitudes right and you've got trillions of dollars spent on it and like taxpayers' money and lasers and all that, and you still can't get your altitudes right, sorry, boys and girls, but you may as well. The AE map is better because at least it's got all the land in the relatively right place. Well, you guys can't even map it around a ball. But in any event, for me, it was a case of if it was the Isle of Man, the stuff on the extreme left and the extreme right that was difficult for me to observe and for me to actually capture, I knew that was really far away because it was literally changing in front of my very eyes. It's like when you wake up in the winter and you've got condensation on the inside of your window, and you get your hand and you rub a hole in the condensation, and now you can see what the weather's like on the outside. It was just like looking through a porthole or through the atmosphere for whatever reason, but it was metamorphic. It was changing its form while I was looking at it. It was like a hologram. Now, I don't like using the word hologram because it implies refraction, but it was like looking through the atmosphere through a porthole, and I could just see through like a rip in the atmosphere, and that's how it was. So I've got the suggestion that we're only looking at the Isle of Man, but I've got my own experience of taking the image, and I know that was really far away. It was not close. And it was weird. It really was weird. So I was really against this Douglas thing being where Douglas could be, because it's not consistent with the effort required to capture what was actually captured. It's huge. It's a massive, massive distance. So I've got these saying one thing, and it is fair criticism. It's fair critique. However, I took the image and I know how hard it was, and I know what I was looking at, and I knew it was far away. And that's the same on both sides of the Isle of Man. Now, when I found out that Al Kay and Miles the Liar Davis went up to St. Bees on Saturday or Sunday, whatever day it was, they went up there with the intention of debunking me. Now, they've probably measured the cliff, right? They've probably chucked a tape measure down, and guess what? It's probably come back at the right height. They might not have done, but they probably did, because that was the most contentious bit. But I'm also aware that they did the observation of the Isle of Man, and I called it last night. I put a video up last night, first thing this morning, and I've said, Miles Davis, Al Kay, produce your evidence, because I'm going to tell you what you got. And I could see by the snippet that they showed that they could see the Isle of Man. So if they could see the Isle of Man, the mainland, then they sure as hell would have seen the other bit to the right that they're all claiming is Isle of Man. And I'm saying, you're not going to see that because it's island and you were atmospherically blocked because the weather wasn't quite as good. Now, it was a clear day. It was a nice day when they did it. Happy days. But I know it wasn't as clear as what my day was. So I know that they won't have got what I saw. And they didn't. That's why there's no debunk video. That's why Al Kay and Miles Davis basically failed, like George Airy failed to prove the rotation of the Earth. Miles Davis and Al Kay both failed to debunk Riley. That's the simple fact. So I can stand on my own 2 feet like I have done for the last 30-odd debates, and I'll stand my ground. I was exactly where the video puts me. I was at the altitude that your working model puts me at. I don't care how inaccurate it's claimed to be. That's fudging the maths to make it look like it's a ball when it's really not. It's fake. The ball, yeah, your model, doesn't do it.
When they say about Google Maps saying that it's only accurate up to 30 meters, if the part of the land which you're testing, the elevation is only 40 meters, then the inaccuracy will not be 30 meters. The inaccuracy of 30 meters will probably be on something which is 10,000 meters high.
Yeah.
Not something which is 40 meters high.
Yeah. I think it's actually a disclaimer to compensate for the fact that the altitudes are actually correct. And I've stood my ground. I've said at 35 feet with a lower observation position. I'm standing by that because it does look like it's 35 feet to me. Yeah. Now, I don't have any experience in working at ladders, but Ranty said to me that if you've got any experience at working at height like he has, what you think you're at is basically half of what you're at. It's double what you are actually at. It's a lot lower than what you think it is. So, for example, if you say you're at 100 feet, you're only really at 50 feet because we perceive distance based on a lateral observation.
Well, everyone knows that. If you climb into the loft in your house and look down, it looks so high, but it's only 8 feet high.
Yeah.
It's because you're adding on the height of yourself as well.
So if I apply what Ranty said, it feels as though you're looking further down than what you actually are. then I agree with that. Then 35 feet does seem about right. It might be 37 feet or maybe even 40 feet, but it's going to be around 35 feet because that's what your model says. And I stand by that. I think that's what it is. I think they put that in there in the same way that they put the magnetic declination point around Australia and New Zealand to compensate for the magnetic fields of the Earth. I don't think that they're doing that. I think they're compensating for the failure of the compass to do what they expect it to do. And declination is literally, it's just a fudging of the numbers to make it look like it's a ball. Because it doesn't make any sense for why declination would be there unless there's a pole that's just right near Australia. And the pole isn't meant to be near Australia. It's meant to be at the South Pole. So it's completely inconsistent with this notion that we have this pole that goes through the North Pole and the magnetic North Pole and the magnetic South Pole. No, why is there a pole near New Zealand? It shouldn't be there. It's complete and utter science fiction. So that's why I'm happy with the failure of the ballers to debunk this, and I'm also happy with the failure of the ballers to prove stuff because they failed. Rumpus has been doing all these calculations, and Lottie says, oh, well, as long as Rumpus has done the maths, I'm all right with that. So we'll just accept it because it's maths. But none of them are cross-referencing it with the evidence. What they're doing is they're going, well, this is where we think it should be, and like they'll look along the line and say, oh, look, there's something that we'll claim that is on the line of sight, so we'll have that because it happens to be there. Not the fact that it's in a ravine or whatever, but they'll claim it as their own identification. But what we're doing is we're looking at the evidence, or this is how I was doing it. I was looking at the evidence and I was looking for specific lights and trying to find the specific lights, not trying to find a building that might be on the line. And it's a problem because you have to deal with a lot of issues, and we have fallen out with it quite a few times. But it's made it stronger overall, and it stands on its own 2 feet. It stands there in its own merits, in its own fingerprint and footprints, and no one so far has debunked it. All we've seen is Rumpus talking about standard refraction and how light doesn't bend up. He spent 25 minutes without interruption whatsoever on light and never once mentioned that light bends up. And we all know soundly showed that light bends up as well as down. Rumpus didn't. He never once said up in that 25 minutes. It's ridiculous.
They default on down.
Huh?
They default, actually. They say down.
Yeah, which effectively cuts the bottom off ships when they go over the horizon.
It seems
Well,
the
it
more
does cause a superior mirage effect, as it were, but that's a rare thing. It's only under heat, under hot conditions. Standard refraction is pretty normal, and it always bends light up.
They don't tell us that though, do they?
Light
Rumpus?
bending down is an unusual circumstances. So,
They don't tell us that though, do they?
they did. They did in the beginning when they started to bring out the whole refraction thing. But yeah, it wasn't in any context yet. But that's when I started to get what refraction really was. So yeah, they don't like to mention it bends light up. It creates an apparent curvature. They just go around that.
Yeah, they just fail to tell. They just literally fail to tell.
How long do you think they'll keep up this embargo then on the live debates?
I don't know, but it doesn't really matter because lots of people on both sides of the argument have said to me, look, just make it closed, make it only accessible by people that you have their email address and you allow them in. Well, lots of people have tried that already and, it ends up being a circle jerk. Well, if we have, for the time being at least, a one-sided circle jerk, then that's just going to be how it is. The door's still open. Anybody is welcome to join. The reality is they, the Globers who have failed, don't want anybody to talk to us, so they are sat in the back chat sniping out anybody who joins. Well, like I say, this is being documented. This is the reaction from the Globers to finding out the Earth is flat, because that's what's going to happen later on this evening, so we'll see if the reaction escalates. I don't know quite how they can in my regard, but in reality, they're going to be given an absolutely unequivocal demonstration of the Earth being flat later on this evening. And, if I was on their side of the fence, it would be cognitively difficult to process. I'm not going to lie. For me, who cares? I already knew the Earth was flat. But for people who didn't, and they're like, well, there's no proof of a flat Earth, well, you're going to get some.
You're going to get a lot.
They're not going to hear it. They can't listen.
Here's something for Lottie.
They can't do it.
Being from Cardiff, Lottie, you must have been to Barry Island quite a lot as a child. Although I knew you grew up in Leeds. But from Barry Island, you can see Weston-super-Mare, and you can also see the beaches in England from the beaches in Wales. So the height is like not even a part of the point of the equation. You must agree with that, Lottie.
didn't realise he was. Oh, I do remember he was from Wales. I remember he was saying Cardiff, and I remember laughing. Cardiff, Swansea. I can never remember which way round. One of them's in England, the other one's in Wales, isn't it?
No, Cardiff and Swansea are both in
Both
Wales.
in Wales.
Oh, are they? Well, one of them's got a football team in the English Football League. Which one's that?
They're both Cardiff and Swansea.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, I stand corrected.
Yeah, they were both in the Premiership. Swansea still are.
All right, okay.
Hey, I got the. Is this live, by the way? Is anybody recording this, or is this just in the background?
This is live, so please don't swear.
Oh, no, I won't. All right. Yeah, I didn't see any notification of a Hangout in YouTube, so I don't know why.
It's very good of YouTube to not notify you.
Weird. Anyway, yeah. I think that we're getting thick on proof, as it were, and we could do more with the Isle of Man, but it'll take more work and more money.
Yeah. So if you want to donate, feel free, boys, girls.
Yeah, my Isle of Man Foundation.
Yeah.
Next time I'm free, I'll go down to Penarth Point when the tide's out, and I'll take some video footage of the second Severn crossing.
Hey, I thought of a relatively small experiment that we could do that could be very helpful, and that is get a good camera. Well, already got one, of course, or you got one. Go in a 2-person airplane and fly low from the coast to England over the Isle of Man towards Ireland on a clear day, and try to keep it straight.
Line.
Yeah, but especially like fly low. You can of course fly high. You have to see what permissions you would get, but like say fly at a 200 feet or something, so it's safe, and you can just film this, keep the plane straight, and just film in the distance as you go over it, and you got all sorts of measurements from that footage afterward. So shouldn't be too expensive for one go.
I wonder what the maximum range is now with a normal drone, a remote controlled drone.
A couple of miles.
Yeah, they don't go too far. Batteries.
Yeah.
You could potentially do it on a ferry or something, but then you've got the time it takes the ferry to get across, and you'd have to fly up, make a couple of observations, change the battery. It wouldn't be one consistent thing. But to be honest, Darwin, and I think it's a very good idea. I'm not going to put it down in any way, but what you'll find later on this evening is that that's negated by what we will demonstrate. I can't give too much away, but just watch this evening. You'll see.
What time is it this evening, Nathan?
What time?
About maybe 10 or 11 o'clock UK time.
Could be 8. It depends very much on the American guy, Chris, because he's got his life to live. So it's like we're flexible and working around him.
He's Canadian.
Sorry, I apologise. That's like saying Wales. Yeah, okay, Canadian. I apologise.
Wales and England, yeah.
But when he's free and when he can do it, me and Nathan and Ranty will be free. But speaking of Ranty, where is Ranty?
I don't know. Hi, Flo Birth. Can you hear us? Got a guest in the hangout. Can you hear us? We've been immediately sniped.
Yeah, there's a machine gunner there.
I think Flo Birth.
So the ballers are so raw. How much
Flo
butter
Birth. Can you add Make 4 to the call? I think you've got him on your list as well. Why not?
I can add him, but he has to be. He can't troll us because he seems to be trolling us at the minute. He seems to be on the fence troll, which is unusual.
Well, that would be useful to have.
Huh?
There, let him in. Definitely then.
I'm trying.
Thank you.
Make 4. Right, I can't remember.
You and leave you guys.
Nice to have you, Music Man. It was a pleasure.
Cheers, guys. I'll pop in tonight. Whenever you decide to do the expose.
No worries.
Cool.
Cheers.
Nice jumper, by the way. Nice jumper.
Yeah, I'm giving it a few more outings. It's my Christmas jumper.
One thing you said. See you later, Music Man. One thing that you said yesterday, Anthony, that really resonated with me, because after we'd found what we found, you said, "Oh, there must be hundreds of photos out there that are like this." And my answer to that was all of them. Every single photo ever taken in existence ever has taken a picture of the flat Earth.
Yeah. Well, what I meant was like, in terms of identifying stuff that you just naturally assume is the thing that you're looking at, and it's not always the case. It's like, hang on a minute, because I mean, I thought I was looking at Isle of Man, and it was only when I got home and checked it, I thought, actually, it may not be. I think it could be Ireland. And then Ramsey did some sums on it and worked out, actually, it's Ireland on both sides of the Isle of Man, not just the side that you thought. And I was like, seriously? That's like 140 miles. We're seeing huge amounts, and we can prove it. So
yeah. At one stage, though, let's give the Globers a little bit of, what's the word, consolation prize. At once, right at the beginning, we'd got the scale wrong. We'd got it too big, and we thought it incorporated Scotland, and it doesn't. It definitely hasn't got Scotland in the image.
Not far off it, though.
Yeah, but I'm going to concede that right now, just so it's out there. I'm sure at some stage I've said either, yeah, Scotland's in there, because at the time we're looking at a model that shows it's got Scotland in it while we're lining it up, and you're all excited about that. But the reality is that Scotland's definitely not there.
Yeah.
Don't take that in some sort of bad way.
No, I'm not. I'm just looking for that. What was the name of that lighthouse that Paul went to view at the weekend? The one up at the north side, not the Point of Ayr one, but the one that was in Scotland.
Oh, I don't know.
I'll have to find Paul on, because there's a really interesting story about that particular lighthouse, which I'll read from Wikipedia. So give me 2 minutes. Is Make 4 joined?
Yo.
How you doing, mate? Good to have you.
Not
Actually,
too
good
bad.
to say something on this show.
Yeah, I got kicked straight away then. That was pretty funny. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's named the hangout. You're not allowed to join.
Yeah, there's a
Sorry.
machine gunner now. There's no longer sniping. They just have a
Would've
machine
closed
gunner.
that,
Anyone that
hangout
comes
anyway.
instant
'Cause
kill.
he's named it. You can't join. So anyone that joins is just that's like a dead link then, really.
It is kind of a dead link, but this is the hangout where we'll reference in future for why there is an echo chamber. So when they come back with us in future and say, hey, you just got a flat earth echo chamber, we'll say, yeah, that's because you guys were destroying it, because you claimed what do they call it, a protest, but actually you were retreating, you little worms.
And they seem to think it's something to do with Nathan's debate and moderation, but it's nothing to do with that. It's simply that they are unable to present any counter argument.
Correct.
Yeah,
I had
so
both sides
they
saying
look for any
similar
excuse,
things, Spurs. So one side would be Flat Earth, would be saying you need to be a much harder moderator. And this was on the shows where I was extremely, or as hard as I had been, there was people commenting saying you need to be a harder moderator, you need to stop them derailing the conversation and sidetracking and being disruptive. So that's the comments I got from Flat Earth sides. And on the other side, you've heard their comments. They're saying, oh, well, if you are free to eject anybody from your own hangout, then that's outrageous. It's like, well, yeah, I am free to eject anybody, like anybody who runs a hangout is.
Yeah. And Spurs, you're a bit quiet. Do you want to pull your mic a little bit closer?
Oh, I'm not quiet. Sort that out. Is that a bit better? Any better?
Yeah, that sounds miles better.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, they're just looking for excuses. I think they've realised we've got them. And,
Yep.
you've got Tim Osmond heading this boycott or, banning of speaking with Flat Earth. But it's not a problem, really, because it's the truth. We're here to spread the truth. The debate was just to see if anyone could challenge it, if it was possible
Yeah.
to challenge. Yeah.
It's our peer review process, isn't it? You have to put it out to the ballers and see what they come back with, and they've come back and they've literally, and I'll stand my ground again. I've stood my ground, hangout after hangout. I've stood my ground with regards to everything that I've said. The only concession that I make is that I can't remember exactly where I took the middle picture, the second video from. And if it's the case that I took it from the top of the hill, so be it. I don't mind. It doesn't make any difference. You need to find 2 miles of curvature to explain what we're looking at. Okay? 2 miles. So I don't care whether I'm at 100 feet, 200 feet, 600 feet, 1,000 feet. You need 4,000 feet to get to what we're seeing. Do you understand that, boys and girls? 4,000 feet. It's a huge amount.
How did
with
you
the
get
real
on?
curvature, you would only see water. That's pretty much it.
I just want to ask Spurs how he got on, because while we were in conversation the other day modelling it with Chris, Anthony told me that you were on one of their circle jerks that we didn't get invited to, but you were there. So how did you get on?
Was that at Geo's?
Yes.
Oh, well, it's they just wouldn't listen, obviously. They just wanted me to accept, basically what they were telling me.
Yeah.
Just complaining that, there's lies, it's not accurate. But yeah, Miles, like you said, he went down there to check it out. He can't see what you can pick up. So you caught a unique find there, I think.
It's not that unique. It's repeatable. You just need a good day. Now, when Al Kay and Miles the liar Davis went back to try and debunk me, that's the best thing that could have happened, because basically I said the minute I found out that they were going back, I thought, brilliant. What they will do is they will fail in the same way that George Airy failed to prove the Earth rotated. They will fail to show that the land on the far right or the far left, but they'll have been concentrating on the far right because it was the nearest land. They will fail to show that they will fail to evidence that in the photo, in the evidence. And they have, because there's been no debunk video and they've gone strangely silent. So it's a failure. It's like George Airy's failure. So it's Miles the Liar Davis failure to debunk Anthony Riley. That's exactly what it is. So I've asked them to produce their evidence and let's see what they actually did get, to see whether they're being honest, because it would be dishonest to try and debunk me and not produce the evidence.
Well, yeah, it's quite ironic or funny, or that they would choose to boycott right at the moment when Miles went down there. I mean, this is the time when Miles should be coming back saying, yeah, we went there, we observed this, this is what we found, but look what's happened. It's like they found some. It's kind of like when they went to the moon or went to space. They found. I mean, this is the time when Miles should be coming back saying, yeah, we went there, we observed this. I can hear myself. This is what we found.
Somebody's joined.
Echo.
Yeah, we've got a guest. How you doing, Corona? See if we can get a single word out of our new guest.
No, anyway, so let me just finish. So it reminds me of, like, as soon as we found something and they've investigated it now and they've said, oh, well, we need to stop this, so we can't address this any further. And it seems what's happened right now. Then Miles should be here saying, yep, I went there also. I went exactly where Anthony Riley has went, and this is what I found. But we're seeing silence. We're seeing the opposite. We're seeing fear. They've definitely seen something that they don't want to present.
Well, no, it's not that they've seen something. It's that they fail to see something that supports my argument.
Well, they've seen or they haven't seen something. This is what I'm saying. Yeah, they've discovered something.
No, they failed to discover something that they were expecting to see. That's what's happened. It's a negative proof. They failed to see the Isle of Man when they were all claiming it was the Isle of Man. They've got there, they've seen nothing, and thought, shit, Riley's right.
Let me just explain it. Right. Sorry, just want to give context to what you're saying so it makes sense to Spurs and the audience. So, on the right-hand side of the image, there's a gap, what looks like the sea goes between the end of the Isle of Man, if you want to call it that, and another piece of land. And on the map of the Isle of Man, there is the mountains, then the lowlands, which in this instance look like they're sea, and then you have this high peak, which is in fact the closest point to you from St. Bees. That 260, 270 foot mound on the edge is the closest thing you could see. So therefore, if you can catch the rest of the Isle of Man, you can definitely catch that 260 foot ridge. However, it's not in their footage. They don't have it, and it was a clear enough day to catch the closest thing to you. They just didn't get it. And that's because, as Anthony Riley's saying, if it's not there, it's because it wasn't a clear enough day to catch Ireland in the background.
Yeah. And that they may get that ridge. That ridge may be tall enough, depending on how much refraction there is on the horizon. That bit of dirty air that we can't see, that they've been laughing at me for calling dirty air. The fact is, it is there. We can see it, but you just dismiss it because it is. It just poos all over your argument of refraction being bendy light. Refraction is not bendy light. Refraction is that little bit that sits on the horizon that we call dirty air because we don't know what else to call it, because we don't have the science for it. Essentially, they've gone back. They may see that little mound, but they won't be seeing all the rest of the land. So they'll either see.
Of all the time for, a so-called boycott, whatever, however you want to call it, they choose to do it when researchers from the Ball Earth side have actually been down there. Now, I'm sure there are other ballers, in the public that are desperate to see this. What did Miles find? What did he see? What did he discover? What he didn't discover? What were the results? And, it's very telling, absolutely very telling that they choose to retreat. It's a clear sign that something is scared them.
They had to retreat. They had to retreat, and they had to call it a protest because they're cornered. So, I mean, you can see it now.
The best they had to hope for is confusion. I personally, at first, when the Isle of Man photo appeared here on the show, I first misinterpreted like the mountain range of Ireland to be the lower part of the
Yep.
Isle of Man. I didn't realize that the actual flat part is below the refraction zone, so you can't see it. You can only see on the left the lighthouse sticking out, as it were. But that misinterpretation is very universal for people, and that is where they rode upon the hope that people would just misunderstand, misinterpret. But yeah, the more clear this becomes what they're actually seeing, the more advantage they lose. So
Well,
I think that's why they're retreating, because they know the more we talk about it, the more clear it becomes.
Well,
the worse it becomes. for them.
this reminds me when they may have discovered the edge and completely changed the goalposts, retracted, retreated. You know,
And can I just say that it's not just Miles Davis, it's Al Key as well. Al Key went with Miles, and he went to debunk Riley, but he hasn't done it. So it's Miles and Al Kay. So we need to put them both in the same sentence. So we shouldn't put it all on Miles. It's 50-50 with Al Kay. You both went up there to try and debunk me, which is brilliant because that's called scientific process. That is the scientific method. You haven't done it, but you're withholding the evidence that supports my version of events. Now that is dishonest, and you guys call me dishonest, but we know I'm calling you and you're not producing it, and no one said a word. Wonder why that might be. It's because it supports my version of events, and you need to hide it because it doesn't support yours. How dishonest of you boys.
you know, and this is the very reason that we find the whole baller thing suspicious. You know, they do the research, they have the results. So Miles has the results in his hands, but he refuses to show us what he found.
Well, he hasn't actually expressly refused yet, but he went up on Saturday or Sunday, and I'm assuming that he took a tape measure with him because, I mean, it's not that difficult to get hold of a tape measure. They're about 10 quid on eBay, and Miles being the kind of guy he has, I'd expect him to probably have one anyway. So I'm calling that they probably took a tape measure and measured the height of the cliff, and guess what? No response video. And they definitely did the observation, and I've seen a little snippet of it, and it showed that they could see the Isle of Man, but they didn't pan over to the right on the bit I saw, and that means that they didn't see anything to the right. They may see that little high bit, that little sand dune bit, whatever that high, but they're not going to be seeing the rest of the land. So basically, it's the withholding information that damages their case, because if it really was the Isle of Man, they'd have been all over it like a rat. And guess what? They've got a protest in place at the moment. How dishonest of you ballers? How dishonest would that be? Can you imagine if I went and did that, and I went and did an experiment, and it proved the shape of the Earth, and I withheld it, and I was public with it. Everybody knew I was doing it, and nobody. And I came back and I didn't reveal it, and I wouldn't say anything.
I mean, if we talk about gatekeepers, I mean, look at what Tim Osmond is doing at this moment. He's standing at the door of so-called truth or information, however you want to call it, and he's not allowing anybody to express. I mean, I'm sure there are ballers who disagree with this boycott, who want to express their views and also want to speak about these fines. But you've got someone like Tim Osmond who decides, well, nobody can speak. I don't enjoy this conversation. This is going to lead to something that will change the way that you think, the way that even he thinks. He doesn't want you or anyone to change his reality. So this is, I mean, talk about psychology. This is telling of the highest order.
Boycotting learning.
Right, I'm going to add a baller to this conversation. So I'm about to add P. Mars, who's a baller, but I like P. Mars. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he's a true believer. That's all right. Hey, Patrick.
So if anyone didn't understand like the term gatekeeper, this is an extreme example. Hi, P. Mars.
Hey
This
guys,
is an extreme example
Yes, we
of
can hear
somebody gatekeeping. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm boycotting the boycott.
Hey,
No.
for that you should be given credit.
I think it's kind of funny, because I almost never listen to Globebusters, but I tuned in for a little bit last Sunday, and I heard Bob actually criticizing this debate, and Jaron started criticizing it too, and he's like, "What is it accomplished in 100 debates? You're never gonna accomplish anything." And I'm just like, man, who are these people to criticize Nathan? Like, what have they accomplished with Globebusters in 2 years? Like,
A
you could
safe
argue
space
it's
and
the
a
same
following.
thing.
That's what they accomplished.
So, and then I seen Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole was kind of criticizing Nathan in the chat. I think couple days ago or something, and yet Nathan's like having to defend himself for doing a show, and Nathan's like, well, I'm doing it because I'm a YouTuber. Like, why is Nathan even having to defend himself? And then right after that, it's like Tim does this boycott and is like sniping the hangout. So it's almost like Tim deep inside the rabbit hole and like Globebusters are like all on the same team versus Nathan. I don't understand why. I don't know.
I know why Tim's doing it. He's got girly ankles. That's why he's doing it. He doesn't like people realizing he's got girly ankles.
Nah, what he's doing is he's utilising his equipment to the best of his ability, and you've got to admire him for that. Basically, he used to have a bazooka that he'd take out people like Dell with, and that bazooka has been taken away from him. He's been demoted to private, so he's picked up his gun and gone postal.
He's basically got a pea shooter now.
Well, he's got a knife, and all he can do now is crawl through the dirt. Hope nobody spots him.
But again, in the
there's
context,
nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with like criticizing people like Jaronism did, but it's just like I don't. If you're criticizing someone, like, what are they accomplishing, and then at the same time, like, you're not, like, what you have to ask that question of yourself, I think so.
I mean,
I
I
don't think
kind of
that's very
think
fair.
this is one of
I
the
don't think it's
first
a fair criticism.
This is one of the first times that we've actually stuck at an actual point.
Yeah.
I mean, usually if you look at the debates, they go from point to point, and we never actually finish or establish anything.
That's right.
And as soon as we focus, dissect this to the hilt, to the T, which is what all of these experiments need doing. The ballers do the same. They look at it and they retreat. This is unbelievable. This is like unprecedented. We haven't seen ballers run en masse.
That's what they always do. They have done this in the Flat Earth debate from the beginning. Is just immediately bring in other subjects, refer to the heavens, ask questions about that.
This is a little bit different. This is a little bit different because all other experiments are not as live on the Hangouts as this. So we can get people to go there. We have people who live there. Ballers can go there. They have access there. This is not like a NASA thing. This is not a space agency. So this is really hurting them because we can actually do the actual experiments, and they're failing on all corners. That's what it looks like.
I'm pretty sure that the real science community is paying attention to this.
Absolutely.
And they are panicking and trying to figure out what to do about it. And they're not getting a solution. That's what I think is happening.
What they've got to do now is put us on pause, on hold. There is no boycott because there are ballers out there desperate to find out if Riley and Ranty have the truth, right? So all Tim is doing is just giving people time to kind of sit back and relax and think about what has happened. You have time to breathe, to get everything right. The ballers are panicking. They have time to get things, for them right. So this is, for me, it's not really any kind of boycott. It's something that's needs to be examined. It has to be examined because if we can see Ireland from England, this is front page news. So hold the press until we find out the like you say, Nathan, tonight.
That's
we're gonna have
funny.
some. Yeah.
That reminds me of something. Have you guys ever checked like the paper records of newspapers? Because maybe there are past since photography, so late 19th century, maybe there are actually news articles or even photographs of this very thing hidden somewhere in a newspaper.
I actually did do a bit of research in the newspapers, and I found that there was a gentleman, I don't remember his name, and I couldn't put my fingers on it straight away, but he saw St. Bees Head, which is where I was at, from Blackpool Tower, 50 miles up the coast. And when I saw that, I thought, so if he can see St. Bees, I should be able to see Blackpool Tower. And obviously that was the reason why I went there. But he said that. But in the comments section, Nathan can recite them better than I can because they're on his video. There are people saying, yeah, you can see Ireland all the time. But within the FE community, We haven't realised that we can see Island all the time. It's just that we're told that we can't, so we don't look there. So it's like, don't look over here. Look over here. This is what you can see. This is the curve. So they send us to a 16-mile observation over some lake, swampy lake in America, and claim that this is the curve to the Earth.
Soundly's a holy spot.
Yeah. So, but we're being told that in 16 miles we can see the curvature, the way that it's presented to us over the swampy lake in Pontchartrain. Yet the reality is we can see 100 miles. 100 miles. So if that's true, what we're being shown in the swampy lake, then it means that we should never see what we're seeing. And the simple fact is, it's common knowledge. There are people on the comments, and Paul's been in Paul from Isle of Man. He lives in Douglas. It's common knowledge. They all know this, but the people that know this as common knowledge are not in the FE debate. It's only when these people come into it because they're pulled into it for some reason or whatever, they get wind of it, and they come on and they go, yeah, you can see the boats going into the harbour at Douglas from St. Bees Head with a pair of binoculars. And I'm like, pardon? And that's kind of... Yeah, just a pair of binoculars. And I'm like, what?
Cool.
It's things like that make us... Like me and Nathan have had conversations about how strong is the evidence that we accept compared to how weak is the evidence that we accept. And we've had to rank the evidences accordingly. And we've spoken that we don't always agree on stuff. And like, I've never actually fell out with Nathan over stuff. I've fell out with Ranty. But nonetheless, we've had conversations about what is the strongest evidence that we should accept and what's the weakest stuff that we should take with a pinch of salt. And it is the case that like people that say things like, and there's enough of them in the comments, you can read them. They say things like, you can watch with a pair of binoculars the boats going into Douglas Harbour from St. Bees Head. And when I see somebody saying that, I'm like, wow, these people are not in the debate, but they should be because they've got really key evidence, but they don't realise that what they're looking at is so huge. They just think it's trivial because it's day to day. But when you're in the FE community and you're talking about these things, we don't get to see this kind of information unless you happen to drop on it, and we've dropped on. It's fab.
So there's AI K in the chat there, and is there any way that he can join?
Yeah, follow the link, but Tim will snipe him. But if you could tell us what land did he actually see? I mean,
let me just repeat that. Sorry, Anthony, to interrupt. So, yeah, all are welcome to join. The link is open to absolutely anybody. The problem is the Globers don't want you to talk to us. So they don't want to be humiliated further. When they stopped joining, the point that they stopped, the last hangout prior to them being stopped, they were literally telling us all about how their model didn't work. That's the point they're at, telling us how crap Google is. So they're literally on the ropes, doing the debunking of their own model for us. So it is definitely not in their interest to join. And anybody who does debate this subject with us will only make matters worse for the Globe side. Therefore, it is in the interest of the Globe side to snipe anybody and everybody, even if they're here to defend what they think they have as some sort of debunking of this Isle of Man footage. It definitely is not in their best interest to talk about it at all. So the only stance they can take is shut it down. Stop anybody talking about this, and that's what they're trying. But the Hangout, what you see on screen now, is a Google Plus Hangout on air with the link published to anyone. Anyone can join. My doors are open.
I was watching a Hangout. I think the guy's name was Sean Hufford, and they were talking about this flat Earth debate, and the guy was saying like, "Well, I started watching at debate 90, and Nathan was a good moderator then, but lately he's bad and evil, and so we need to boycott because like I don't understand like why they're like trying to put this like social pressure on Nathan and control him and like force him to behave in a manner that they deem appropriate, and I think that's BS. Like people should have freedom to do what they want, and like I don't
agree,
like
Pete,
this
but I
social
also
pressure.
would add to that, P, that in the same way you're free to come here and criticise Bob Jeran and Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, they are free to criticise me, and welcome to. They could come on and do it live if they chose, and I wouldn't stop them. I've said this all along. If people want to come on and criticise my moderating, they're welcome to do so. They can join the panel and tell me that, and I won't stop them. They're welcome to. And I absolutely have criticised Globebusters on various occasions, openly and publicly. So, you know, I'm not going to in any way say that they shouldn't do the same to me. They're welcome to. Good. That's what makes the world go round.
I'm not saying they shouldn't do that because, like, I mean, I criticize people. Like, you've let me criticize you on your own panel, and I just think they're being babies. I guess is what I'm saying. Is like they're just kind of like throwing it.
No, it's nothing to do with being babies.
Over nothing. Well, it's over nothing.
What's happened?
Nathan didn't do anything.
What's happened is Miles look, this has just happened. Miles has been to where Anthony has been. They have correlated with Sean and Tim, and they've realized we're in trouble. So they pulled the likes of Paul and Rumpus out. This is the only thing that they could do. This is no coincidence that Miles goes there and we have this boycott. Okay? So
Tactical retreat.
this has nothing to do with Nathan's moderating. This has nothing to do with flat earthers, how we go about it. This is like shooting the messenger or something. Okay?
Yeah, but Spurs,
So,
that's
the
what they
tactical
said on the
retreat.
panel. Like Tim Osmond made a video and he talked about Nathan's moderating and he's critical.
This is
of
what I'm
it.
saying. This is called distracting, deflecting, taking away the people. Remember, this is not a baller versus flat earth. This is like the truth. So if Nathan and Anthony say that we have the truth here, and they're open to be challenged, but because of a few people like Sean and Tim say that you cannot you public, you people are not allowed to challenge the information, well, something has happened. And what has happened is Miles went to St. Bees. They did the same experiments, and there was a problem. And that's all that's happened here. And and they have to come up with any excuse, which is what they've been doing for the last 4 years, excuse after
Oh, I see what
excuse.
you're saying.
Can I just interrupt a second? I just want to give P Mars some kudos here because I'm not P Mars' biggest fan. I think he knows that, and I think everybody knows that. But I have to give credit where it's due because he's defying this boycott ban thing that they're doing, this retreat, whatever it is that they're doing. He's on the panel today, and for once, I'm going to give you a huge amount of kudos, P Mars, because as you know, I'm not your biggest of fans, and I know that you're not mine. But it takes balls to do what you're doing today, and for that, I'm thanking you for it.
I just say what I think, right? Like, and I listen to these ball earthers on Hangouts criticize Nathan for his moderating, and I would just like to see how they moderate a panel of 10 people. Like, it's easy to be an armchair quarterback and like be like, oh, I would do this and I would do that, but then when you're actually, it's not an easy thing to moderate these panels. So it's like, I just feel like their criticism of Nathan is not fair and it's unjust, and they don't know what they're talking about and they're ignorant.
Well said.
And it's nice as well, from my point of view, that now the flat earthers are seeing that this is standing its ground, that they're actually they're becoming unified, because at the end of the day, it is standing on its own 2 feet. It's standing there on its own merits. And you can argue about my observer height and exactly where I was stood. It makes no difference. You need 2 miles of observer height to counsel what we're seeing. So
can I add something there? Can I add what it replaces? And this is no disrespect to Josh and Newicki. What we had in those types of images, and there's a fair few of them, is the band of refraction between us and the observation. The target is blocked by something, and if it's blocked by anything, then they will claim it's curvature and just co-opt the argument into whether or not it's just a bit of refraction blocking the bottom of the building, or is it the curve of the Earth? And that argument rages in every single debate. This is the first time we have basically no refraction. There's nothing blocking our view of this island. Refraction is there. It's negligible, but it's there, and we can detail that negligible refraction because the focal point of Anthony's camera is 2,000 miles in the distance, and we're looking at stuff at 30 miles. So the resolution and detail is astonishing. It's excellent. Yeah. So from the point of view that there isn't any refraction to start saying curvature, then there's no argument from their point of view. That's why we're saying we can take a landmark, calculate its distance to the shoreline, and there's no curvature there. And we can do it all day long. And that's the problem they will have with all of the landmarks that are there. Later on this evening, you'll see how it should look on a globe. And a lot of people who are flat earthers will be amazed at what the view should actually be. It's not going to be what you expect.
No. It definitely isn't. And in the nicest and respectful of ways, I believe that Jeranism came in one time, the real Jeranism, and he said definitely not island. And I'm going to respectfully call Jeren on that. Let's just see if you'll stand your ground after watching the Hangout, Jeren, because you'll be surprised, mate. It's going to be good. You'll be impressed. And I hope you come back and say, do you know what, guys? You've stood your ground. Kudos to us, because we have. And to be honest, Nathan's took a big gamble because I'm out there doing observations, and yeah, I don't get everything right. I'm not perfect. I do forget to do things or get something incorrect, and it's well documented. If I make the slightest of mistakes, they use that to discredit the whole observation. But this time they can't do that because it's so much gone beyond this standard refraction nonsense that there's just nowhere for them to go. So yeah, I've stood my ground, I'm standing my ground, and I haven't changed my position on any point. I'm putting 35 feet in and I'm putting 52 feet in because that's what your model says. It's going to come out tonight and you'll see it, and it's going to be glorious. So get the popcorn out, get the rum and coke, sit back and just enjoy it, because it stops it. It just stops this whole, where's the curve? Because there is no curve. It stops it all. There is no curve. So I can't wait. It's lovely.
Yeah, and they've verified the experiment in the respect that Al K has a P900, and he's gone to the, as far as I can tell, an identical location to do these observations. We've not seen them. We've seen a little snippet on a Hangout. That's all I've been presented by Anthony. I don't know whose Hangout it was. Maybe you can tell the audience so that they can see some of the footage that we've been presented with. But ultimately speaking, the detailed P900 shots, I've not seen any of that.
Well, I see Sean Hufford says in chat, sorry, Bob, I called for the boycott before I found out Miles and or Al went to St. Bees. I found out at the end of my Hangout that they went. It'd be interesting to see what Sean's position is if Miles and Al K did not present the evidence that they got, because I've been clear. They're not going to see Ireland in the background. They'll see.
But for me, again, hold on. That's just another excuse, because if Sean Hufford has been watching these debates and watching like Nathan or whoever, then he's seen the argument and not just listened to the way it was presented. So it coincides where it seems that the few of these so-called top ballers have recognised something.
Yeah, what you're saying, Spurs, is Sean saw it coming.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying here. So I'm saying, so it's by no big coincidence that they see something happening here. So they all want to pull back.
They're figuring out
Tim especially. He's been in this.
Are just failures. They're figuring it out that they have been fooled by their own group.
There is not a case of just let's just boycott. They have seen something. They're doing the research themselves. They're lining up themselves without telling us behind the scenes, and they're saying, "Oh no." Again, just like when they discovered the edge, they said we have to pull back, change direction, and this is a huge change of direction. And I can't see what this boycott will achieve, because it's so pertinent right now, and this is the kind of thing that people want to see to prove the shape of the Earth. You can see those distances. That changes everything.
Just so that people in chat are aware, Twitwit's asking, are we doing the great reveal now? No, because the guy that we need to do the computer side of it's in bed asleep, because he's been up all night and he's been tinkering with it and perfecting it and being as best as he can with it to make it both look accurate but also pretty on the eye. Because the amount of measurements and lines and integers and all the mathematics that went into it, basically you're left looking at straight lines, bent lines, circle lines, curly lines. You're looking at all these things and it totally destroys what you can actually see. So he's getting rid of all them lines now. He's making it look pretty, but he's doing it in a way that if anybody challenges it in any way, he can show it.
Oh, well, I want to detail that then if he's getting... I didn't know that, because every time you say, oh, can you take the lines off, I'm like, what, the flat earth lines? But yeah, anyway, each time we've managed to tie down a position, the only thing we're certain, or were certain of, was the lighthouse, Morgord Lighthouse. It's 90 degrees to the location. It's not actually the closest thing to you, but it is 90 degrees to the position, the observer, Anthony, and his camera. And that's a cert. We know that is that. So from there, you can then start triangulating things that we think they are. And what you have to do, it's painstaking, is you pick a thing, you try to identify it, and you say, okay, we'll assume that's the correct identification. And then you start to triangulate things. So he's drawing circles, essentially, on these maps between the triangulation points. And with everything we correctly identify, obviously we get it wrong along the way, with every correct identifying mark, you can triangulate the one you already know with that, and it gets more and more and more until you end up with all of these triangulation points between known locations to tie it down and get the detail down to... Did he say he got it down to a foot? Is that correct? Yeah. I think it's a foot. But ultimately extreme accuracy. by just constantly triangulating everything on a LiDAR map. And if you don't know what a LiDAR map is, it's a plane's basically flown over the top of the UK, scanned the entire landscape, and the map that they come up with is an accurate representation of all of the topology below, with altitudes, unlike Google. So it's a very useful map to compare, because it's actually what is there. It's a scan of the land, and that's what he's been comparing and contrasting with a flat overlay of Google Earth and where they put their positions. But yeah, it's one where, as you triangulate out these positions physically in the real world, making comparisons with what they actually are on a photograph, that's when you get the real detail in terms of the location being really tied down and anchored down to the correct point. How the camera operates was the sort of last thing that's going to get programmed in, or has been already, I don't know, without speaking to Chris. But in essence, as you pan through the image, this is something that Ranty has explained to us in detail, and it took a while for me to get this. But within your field of view, there is a focal point that you essentially pan around, and obviously it can only be within your field of view because the camera's still anchored at the point that it's rotating, but it forces that rotation point out inside the field of view, and that changes the way the parallax works. And that was something that we were having the most difficulty with. In other words, if you change the scale down to as the Globers had it, where you are cutting off the ends of the Isle of Man at both ends, the problem with that is that you can't get any of the real world observations to line up. You can get the mountains to line up beautifully. They look perfect. They match the outline on Peak Finder. It's glorious. It looks really good. But none of the locations match. So this is the problem they had on the show, and we knew this. We'd already seen it modelled, which is why we were so firm with our standpoint. As you start to try and triangulate the geographical locations, the lights, the dots, once you've located them and then you put them into the model, they change position. Like Rumpus found. Picks something on the hill, says that's definitely that, I've picked it, I've found it on the map. But then when you put it into the model and cross-reference it back with the real world evidence, it's changed place. And that's because it basically is a fail. It doesn't match at that scale. When you scale it up the other way, which is where we went wrong in the first instance, we had it scaled too big. You can just about, if you fiddle with things like they were doing halfway through the debate, you can just about get it to line up with all the locations. All of the geographical points seem to line up. A couple of them are off a little bit. I mean, a tiny bit. But it looks right. But then the mountains don't look right. So at that scale, it was wrong. But then once you start dialing in all of these locations and really tying down what you're actually looking at, it gets better and better and better. And the scale finds itself. It'll only work in one particular position, and that's exactly what's happened. And as time has progressed, the model has got better and better and better and more accurate as it's being shown to us. So as Chris sweeps his camera, and you guys will see this isn't a spoiler, but as he sweeps his camera, he'll have two perspectives. One over the top of the Isle of Man, scanning the topographical locations, the heights of the land, this LiDAR map, and the other pointing directly at the photograph. And it all matches up. It looks glorious. Everything is where it is, and you can point it out. You can even go and on the high contrast image that Ranty put together. This is a more recent composite. The resolution in it is phenomenal. You really will see, if you've not seen the high contrast one. It's astonishing. You can pick out the details of the landscape like you wouldn't believe, and that's how we found the thing we found yesterday in this high contrast image. Sticking out like a sore thumb. It just happened to be invisible, or we thought it was invisible based on the physics of what was going on and what Globers were telling us about refraction. It's muddied the waters, a lot of this debate. Oh, the camera's turned off. So it's muddied the waters, but it hasn't changed the fact that as it's going on, we've got a top person modelling it out and getting it to look exactly as it is based on real world evidence. What's actually in the picture? Can we physically identify it? Once you physically identify it, where does that sit in relation to the actual topology of the land? And that's what Chris has done, and that's what will be presented, along with an absolute diamond, a complete diamond in the rough, gleaming. Oh, I've already probably given away too much, so I'm going to shut up now before I do actually give the give the reveal away.
If this is the kind of thing that what we expect, I think the ballers may have already cottoned onto this. They may have already seen this. They may already have some type of.
They have, but they probably didn't know what.
I don't think they have.
No, I'm not saying that. No. Well, hold on. if we know it's flat and the top brass know it's flat, so we know that there are going to be insiders who also know this. They're going to want this off the table as soon as possible. Now, what have we seen? We've seen, Sean and Tim. They're putting their best efforts to make sure that this conversation. How many times have they asked for? Can we change the topic? Can we talk about something else? Hold on, what? Talk about something else? What at the most crucial moment you want us to speak about something else? Well, why? These are the questions I want to know. Why? Do you know something that I don't? Well,
and can I just say that when Paul gets cornered, he responds with and he literally does that because he knows damn well he's cornered and he does not want to answer the question. He's done that at least twice now.
And Rumpus stutters. For all the people in the audience that have said that's a low blow, taking the mickey out of somebody's speech impediment, the Rumpus does not have a speech impediment. He just stutters when he's cornered.
Correct. And the reason why GeoStreamers hang out is completely wrong, yet they're all citing it as a claim, as a success or as a debunk or whatever. Geo's he's applying simply a mathematical equation to the evidence, but not being critical enough with the evidence to make sure it's correct. Because if you apply maths and get an answer and then glance over the evidence and say, yeah, that looks about right. Well, if I look over the evidence and say, yeah, but what about this bit here that's not consistent and that bit there that's not consistent? And when you start criticizing it, critiquing your own work, that's when you realize it doesn't match the evidence. And if it doesn't match the evidence, it's wrong. It's that simple. And that's why me and
we did get to see this. So in yesterday's hangout, from the chat with no evidence, while the boycott was in place, GeoStreamer, who is a glober, was giving us various different coordinates. And he immediately failed because of what I've just explained with the scale. So we'll do the maths, find a location, give it to us, but the location will physically change. It goes wrong. Not only that, before he's even got us to plug in any maths, he gives us a location, we go and look it up, we find it on Google Earth, and right next to that location, which is a farm, is a massive town. And it's not there. It's not in the real world image. So the location fails before we do any maths. The reason that location fails is because it's incorrect, but the reason they've picked it is because the scale's wrong, and the reason they want that location is because it forces that location to be further up the coast, closer to us, putting the maths closer to being in their favour. So GeoStreamer almost got a win yesterday. If we'd have just gone on the maths, it looks like he's bought the houses back with refraction. However, there's all the land below it missing, if it was the right location. But before we even did the maths, we just did that to see how it would come out if you forced the location. And it seems, if you change the towns, yeah, you can bring a couple of the houses back, but none of the land beneath it. Not only that, the location he had literally houses below it that were in view. So in other words, his example was a total fail immediately because there's no massive town next to the farm he's located. So it's just a complete fail.
Now, let me address his comment in chat there. He says, Nathan conveniently didn't tell us that the town we should see, according to him, is 70 metres lower than the farm. Yeah, but we're looking in front of the farm, Geo. It's leading up to the farm in the background. Yes, that town should be evident in the evidence, and it isn't. So you had the wrong place. And the reason why you had the wrong place is because you're applying the wrong maths. Because you're not dealing with power electrics properly.
Geo's playing dumb or he's a moron. There was a missing town,
Yeah, he's a moron.
There's a missing town, GeoStreamer. Are you completely thick?
Yeah, he's a moron. He's being either intellectually dishonest or he's simply stupid. He's applying what he believes is maths that he thinks is correct.
I just think it's stupidity. If you can't see a town in front of you on a photograph, then you are, by definition, a moron. Or blind, and he's not blind. He can type, so he's a moron.
No, I tend to think
really
it's more. I tend to think it's more traumatic and fear. These guys have really running on trauma. No, it's a shock to their system.
Yeah, but shock typically confuses you. So and if you're in the middle of trying to figure out something intellectually and you're shocked, you're
in
bound
this case,
to
it's confused him into not seeing
mistakes.
a town. Yeah, so well put. It confuses people when they're shocked. Well, in this case, Geo was so shocked to not see a town next to the farm he picked that he couldn't even see it or recognise that he hadn't seen it. Yeah.
Right. So he's going to be saying things like babble and just be like, blah, 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 and he won't know how to compute.
Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. He's baffling you with bullshit.
Right, that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing traumatic trauma from a lot of these ballers. Extreme.
Yeah. And the thing is, the mere fact that Rumpus made claims early on when he first came in the hangout saying, I can identify any building in this picture now. Now I know this and that and the other. And he's changed his position twice because it didn't match the evidence. Now, to be fair to Rumpus, he's accepted and conceded that it didn't match. So he wasn't doing it because he was backtracking. He realizes it wasn't right. However, the fact that he had to do that in the first place is symbolic of the application of maths failing to match the evidence. And that's always been my position because it's the evidence that's king. It's not mathematics.
That was priceless, because as you go back through the Hangouts, you have Rumpus saying, can't you apply maths? You're a moron. You don't understand how it works. And then it gets to him finding an example on the hill. He plots it out. We point out, I think it was exactly the same problem as GeoStreamer had. I can't remember precisely. But he basically went back and said, it seems I've got the location wrong. I'm going to have to recalculate. In other words, that was my opportunity to throw back every single insult that Rumpus has ever accused anybody of. In other words, Rumpus, if you've got it wrong and you're telling us that the maths is infallible, then you are a complete moron. Just like all the people you accused of being morons, you are that moron. You are incapable of applying your own numbers. That makes you completely stupid, basically, Rumpus.
No,
so if you're listening to this, Rumpus, from me to you,
just
just in case Rumpus is listening, and I don't know if the panel will agree, I'll ask him. I think you're a moron, Rumpus.
No, I think he's blinded by the fiction that is mathematics to prove stuff, because he's probably correctly done the maths, because that's why I've asked GeoStreamer to point out where the lighthouse should be. I've asked Rumpus to do it. I've asked Paul Voigt to do it, and they all say it's off the page. So they're all doing the maths consistent with each other. But what the maths that they're doing, the actual sum that they're doing doesn't match the evidence. So the sum therefore is wrong. The evidence speaks for itself. If the math doesn't match it, it's wrong.
They believe math over observation.
Yeah,
that is what they do.
The psyche.
And when it's proven wrong, when their math is proven wrong, then they are just like, no, then I must have misinterpreted it. I must have done something wrong, and they'll just keep squabbling and redoing it until they think they got it right. But they won't, because the maths are wrong, and they believe in something that is wrong. And they don't get it because they're believers. They believe in math.
That's it. They believe in maths, which is exactly why Geo can't get it right. And he won't realise it because he thinks that the maths is right. Well, that's why
I think people like Sean and Tim, they get it. You wouldn't stop something if you didn't understand it. They understand where this is going. So they have to do something about it. You have to do something about it. You know, this will convince a lot of people that the Earth is not a ball, because you're not supposed to see at those distances. This is the whole point of this experiment, is are you supposed to see at those distances on the ball the size that we're given? And that's what a lot of people want to know. Even ballers want to know, can you see island? Are we seeing island? You know, and we're at that point, I'm sure of it. Sean and Timothy and the rest of them have seen where this is heading, and they've tried to nip it in the bud as quickly as they can. But, you know, I can't see this going anywhere, especially after what you say we're going to present tonight.
Don't believe the hype, Spurs. We're just going to tell the audience that we have conclusively basically figured out that it is most definitely the Isle of Man.
And Ireland.
Mountain range of Ireland, to be specific. It is the mountains because it is slanting down a lot. So you can't see the coast of Ireland at that distance, but you can definitely see that mountain range. And that's what we're seeing.
So the anticipation is killing the ballers also. I think they want, because most flat earthers already, I mean, we're doing this really. It's not for the flat earthers, because we already understand the mechanics of how things work, where we live. So, you know, we're putting a lot of work in, or I should say you're putting a lot of work in for, you know, for the ballers here. And these guys will do anything to stop that from happening. They absolutely despise the idea that their science is wrong. It's absurd to them. And they've seen they see where it's going, and they have to do something about it. This is one way that they will do it. They've stopped real people, real ballers coming on, asking questions. For what? just to give more credence to the flat earthers. So it's telling. It's very telling in my eyes.
Can I just say as well?
Calculated move.
Can I just say as well that with regards to Sean, I don't think Sean realizes. I think he believes implicitly, 100%ly, with total honesty, that we live on a ball, because he's told me in the past that he was some kind of communications guy in the army or something. And as far as I know, and I may be wrong, but it's something to do with calling the coordinate strikes in for missile strikes or something of that kilter. Might be wrong. Don't kill me. But the reality is, he did something in the army to do with satellite communications. He does absolutely believe it. But on the other hand,
that's ridiculous. You don't need that with the missiles. So
no, I don't think he does believe it. I really don't. I think these guys are clever cookies. They know what they're talking about.
Look, maybe planes don't nosedive as they move, and neither do missiles. So
all I'm saying is that he's got a reasonable story for why he would genuinely have a genuine, honest belief in why it would be a ball. However, Sly Sparkane is the opposite. He knows he's not stupid. Sly's intelligent. He knows. Based on AutoCAD experience and his computer experience, he knows damn well that we do not live on a ball, but he still pushes it. So I'm not sure that Sean's dishonest, but I'm saying that Sly Sparkane is absolutely dishonest. That guy knows.
Look, Sean is heading this, whether he wants to believe that he heard about Miles. I'm saying that he knew where this was going. He's followed you for the longest time. You've been discussing with him for the longest time. So he looks at your work, but yet he focuses on the moderator. That's strange. That's odd. So they've all, gathered together and said, look, we need to do something about this. They are going to prove that we're not on the ball. What do? We can't keep sending Rumpus and Pauling because they're looking like, as you say, morons. We need to do something else.
Nathan, could you do us a favor and address the claim that I'm in some way a moderator on your channel?
No, you're not a moderator. No one's a moderator.
So Riley's not got any special tools to kick people or to do any kind of moderation whatsoever. I'm just like everybody else, right?
Nobody has any moderating ability on my channel at all. There are no channel managers. There are no spanners. Nothing. The only spanners that will ever go up will have my name. I think that the only exception is my wife's, but she's never in these shows watching. But there are no moderators, and I do not give moderator controls to anybody in the Hangout. I'm the only person with the ability to turn people up, turn people down. However, anybody who joins the Hangout can, if you know how to, eject somebody else, which is the current situation. So everybody who's being ejected, somebody just joined a moment ago, Mr. Flat Curve, I'm really sorry. There's a sniper standing on a mound somewhere, sniping everybody out of the back chat. So that's what's actually occurring. And that can continue until they get bored of it.
Got a machine gunner installed.
Yeah, well, of course.
I mean, that sniper has been there for a while. The whole thing about the sniping thing. Look,
Sean Hufford knows this. There was never a moderated stated on this channel. You haven't said, oh, well, you're the mod. So he knows this. Now, if we know that he knows this, we have to ask, well, why is he trying to boycott? He's coming up with a false flag reason here. Yes, saying that, oh, look at the moderation when there are no moderators. So this is a very touchy subject for these people. They are studying, they are watching, they already know. So I'm going to say they're not learning because they already know where this is going. So we're onto something huge. And they will do anything up until look, Timmy is still in the back chat, stopping people from entering.
I don't think it's Tim.
Yeah, it's him with the sock account now.
He told me it's not him, but there's been a sniper for a while on this panel that he's been like kind of sniping out people he doesn't like and allowing people he likes to be on the panel. That's been going on for like many shows, so this is just like a new thing where they're sniping everyone now because they're trying to ruin the show because they're upset for some reason. I guess people are mad at Nathan. I don't get it. Like Tim says something about like he doesn't think Nathan's treating people right. I don't know what he's talking about, so I don't know. To be honest, I think Nathan has been as neutral as he can be, given the fact that he's had so much negative disruption and basically backwards peddling and porn bombing and general blah 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 blah.
and backwards. He's had so much to deal with, and he's been so reserved. And at the end of the day, I've seen the criticism saying that Nathan's put too much time and effort into this, and that he's put too much weight on this evidence. And at the end of the day, we've always had the same position. It's out there for you guys to debunk. And all that we've had so far is misapplication of maths, a load of scientific nonsense, but nobody's come up with the reason for why we're not seeing a wall of water that's 1,000 foot high. Essentially, that's what we should be seeing. We should see none of this land. Maybe not all of the land should be gone, but a big chunk of it's missing. So there's a huge amount of land that we're seeing that should be obstructed by water, a huge wall of it. And it's to the point where it's ridiculous. So Nathan's put up with an awful lot. And yeah, he has put a lot of weight to this, because I wanted to see if it was going to go anywhere. And Nathan said if it stands on its own merit, it'll be debunked. And at the minute, nobody's debunking it. Everyone's claiming debunking, but nobody's actually proving it. Maths doesn't prove or disprove anything. It has to match with reality. And I've got to give Nathan kudos. I've got to give him massive thanks, because it is putting a lot of weight into it. But until it gets debunked, why not? And it's standing its time. So Nathan's getting credit. Ranty's getting credit for spending so much time putting all these stitches together that people like Rumpus just laugh off straight, like flippantly, not realizing that they got the first draft because he was sniped and I couldn't correct it because I didn't realize that it was the wrong version. This is all the consequence of the sniping. It is the disruption. That wouldn't have happened had we not have all been sniped. However, you've all been chasing your tails. But it's because of the sniping that's been going on. So Nathan gets credited. PMARS is getting credited for defying the boycott. Ranty's getting credited for doing all the stitching up and the software side of it. And obviously the guy that's doing the software side of it from like Chris Monk himself, he gets credit. We're all in it together, and we've all had the back and forth. And it's great that we've got a crescendo coming, because it is nails in the coffin. It really is.
I see Sean Hufford says double standards. Lily, he boots people for swearing. You from time to time have sworn like a drunken sailor talking to you, Riley, and he just shrugs it off, talking about Nathan. I'd like to say to that I've seen, like, this person who's been sniping all these shows has sniped a lot of like flat earthers. So a lot of the times it's just Riley is the only flat earther versus like 8 globe earthers and then Nathan. So Nathan is almost forced to kind of defend Riley because it's like 1 versus 8. And also, if Nathan boots Riley for swearing in such an instance, then there would be no show because it would just be a panel full of globe earthers.
No, Nathan doesn't agree with me on stuff. He's called me out twice on things that he didn't agree with me on. One was when I was talking about looming, pulling stuff up from behind the curve.
Yeah, but that's not my point. My point is, like, you're versus 1v8, so it's understandable for Nathan to sort of defend you a little bit, you know.
No, he doesn't have to defend me. I can stand my own ground, and I have done. I've had 5, 6, 7, 8 ballers in all at once, all throwing insults my way. None of them really been critiquing the actual evidence itself, but nonetheless, Nathan won't stand by me if he thinks I'm wrong. He won't. He's done it twice publicly, and in the end, we've talked about it afterwards, and then it becomes an issue where it becomes moot because it's distraction in the first place. Like I said, the evidence stands on its own merit. It stands in its own footprint. And the reality is, you can tell by looking at it what's happened. I've panned across the scene. We can see a lot of land. And that in itself is an issue. So the moot point that we argue over the exact precise meaning of the word, whatever, when it's irrelevant, it's moot. Whether it's looming or whether it's mirage or refraction or bendy light, doesn't really matter the semantics of it all because we're still seeing a hell of a lot of land. So Nathan doesn't stand in my shadow at all. If Nathan thinks I'm wrong, he's called me twice. He's disagreed with me publicly twice. So it's not true to say that Nathan will hold my hand at all. If Nathan thinks I'm wrong, I invite him to, because at the end of the day, it's fine-tuning the argument because it's standing the ground. It's weathering the tirade of abuse. And with regards to Sean's comment, it's not double standards at all. I want you ballers in here because I want to debate. I want the discussion, the disagreement, the fight. I'm here. I'm the one that you can come at. It's not about being... What I don't want is people that come in and go, just to disrupt. That's not acceptable. It's a debate channel. There are places that you can go and do that, and this is not one of them. So the reality is I want you ballers in because I want people coming back to me with graphs and numbers and all this, and then I remind you, if it doesn't match the evidence, it's wrong. And that's my position. So I want you guys in. I don't want this boycott because I want you guys to be challenging me because I enjoy it. I enjoy the mental stimulation. So it's not accurate to say I'm being double standards. I'm actually wanting you guys in. The boycott just happens to fall at the time where it really, really, really suits the ballers, and I'm pointing it out. And I'm reminding you all that this is very convenient for you to claim that it's a boycott, but actually, it's not a boycott at all.
The thing that proves to me that it's definitely not a boycott is that they're all watching. This is the highest viewed show on this channel to date. 124 people currently watching. That's the most these shows have ever got on this channel.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not really a boycott. It's a few guys who are in a position to stop other people who want to challenge what you have to say. I'm sure there's people listening who probably want to address what you and Ranty have provided, but they're making the ground unfair. So it's not really a boycott per se, because anyone can join, and they're just being prevented by the people who want the boycott, which is just a few people. So I don't think they speak for all of the ballers. You know, the ballers want this settled just as much as anybody.
There's like a bunch of junkies and addicts who have formed like a social group around hating on flat earthers, and I've seen their hangouts, and I was in their Discord last night. So I think it's a testament to Flat Earth that you've created an entire community around you for people to come together and hate you guys.
Let me just go back to Sean's comment there. Double standard 2. I haven't seen double standard 1, but double standard 2. Sean asked politely to use a small clip. Nathan demanded I credit the source. I don't think a demand is the correct word. I think it's a reasonable request. And it's exactly what you would do. And just remind, for the record, Sean, when we stopped speaking because you made a claim that you were seeking legal advice or legal ramification against me, but refused to show any evidence whatsoever that you were doing so, and I called you on it, and again, you shriveled away like into a hole like the worm that you are. I didn't demand that you take down the parody video that I contributed to, did I? And I could have done. I could have removed the permission for that clip to be on your channel, but did I do it? No. Did I think about it? Yes. Did I think about it long and hard? Yes. But do you know what, Sean? I'm not actually a bitch. I don't mind taking the piss out of myself. I don't mind the banter. I enjoy it. However, it's not double standards because you asked politely to use a small clip that he granted you permission to use and demanded credit to source. That's not being double standard when we've had all of the copyright material that I own has been played up and down his channel for weeks. 30 odd hangouts. So Anthony has uploaded large clips with no credit to Nathan. Actually, they've all been credited to Nathan in one way or the other because everybody knows that right now we're all talking about this. And if there's any part that Nathan's unhappy with and he demands that I put some creditation to it, it's not a problem because it works both ways. We're both using each other's material. In the same way that we're using Ranty's material, in the same way that we're using Chris's material, we're all sharing the material independently of each other because everybody knows that we're all collaborating to try and see whether the truth is the truth is the truth. So it's not being double standards, Sean. Nathan chooses where he applies the requirement to credit the source. It's not double standards because it is the expectation. He just relaxes it when it's not contentious with flat earthers. And he probably doesn't even relax it. And if Nathan wants me to go back over something specific and put a link to it, I'll do it. But there's enough information that's going between 4 different people. It becomes too laborious to demand everything be credited actually and whatever. But if he wants me to, I will. I'm not going to address the first one because I haven't found it yet. Gem Panda, Sean Hufford, since you are claiming that you called for a boycott, quote, why are you here taking part in conversation with Riley? That's a fair point. You might as well just go in the hangout. No, because it means that the boycott has to end. And at the minute, we're quite enjoying getting the one-way conversation with the sniper on guard. Because it means that we can speak freely and criticize anybody and everybody however much we want. Who's typing dead loud? Is that Ranty Rant?
Oh, sorry, that's me. I'll put myself to mute.
I was hoping Ranty would join on this hangout so he can tell us about some of the shit he has to deal with.
Go on, Ranty. Join us. I think you're part of the call, Ranty. Is he? Yeah. Just join yourself to the call, Ranty, and you can tell us about your experience in this and how much hassle that you've been given or been receiving by ballers, the haters. Because I'm sure people would like to know.
You said there's a Discord site where every flat earther, not every flat earther, but lots of flat earthers' names, addresses, places of business are all listed. Is that correct?
I don't know.
I'm sure maybe it was Ranty. I don't know if you just heard what you said, Ranty.
Yeah, sorry, what's that?
Someone told me.
Mark Taylor is useless.
I'd like to say, Jazzaconda, you didn't get banned. There's a sniper that's removing everyone. So
Afternoon, Ranty.
Afternoon.
Someone thought you banned him.
Yeah, I've just been listening to Mark Taylor say
the man of the hour
in the chat. He put, Ranty, shouldn't you be making plans to stick that stinky mess in the ground? Now, he's referring to my mother that's terminally ill, and that's how he speaks to me in the chat.
What else does he do at 4 o'clock in the morning, Ranty?
Yeah, he's repugnant.
He's calling me up in the middle of the night, waking the house up. He knows my mum's ill, doxing me everywhere, going to different hangouts and giving my telephone number out, house address out, real name out, which I have no problem with telling people my real name.
But he's using it as a weapon, though, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
Because he's a coward. He's an idiot. He's a distractor. He's a typical troll.
Who was doing this?
Mark Taylor.
There they go.
How you doing?
Mark Taylor is a useless.
Hold on, sorry, I've got a guest that might get to me in. We'll see. How you doing, A4?
How you going, Nathan? How you going, guys?
Good.
Hey, Adam, what's going?
See how long you last.
Yeah, just to clarify what you were saying earlier, Nathan, I'm echoing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Have you got the other hangout?
I don't hear an echo. It's just you. I don't hear it.
I don't hear echo either.
Have you muted your watch page?
Everything's all good. Everything's functioning fine.
Mute the YouTube.
As long as you can hear Adam, he'll probably get sniped before we have this before this conversation rounds out, but we'll see.
Oh, is he in the hangout?
Yeah, he's actually in the hangout. No, he's been
Okay,
sniped
well, let
already.
him talk
Really
then.
sorry, Adam. That was how many words you got before we tried to figure out if there was an echo, and then you got sniped. Sorry.
He did pretty well.
Essentially, they've been told, if you don't like it here, you can go. And rather than voting with their feet, they want everybody to... Admin name, Anthony Riley. So you've got people now doxing you in this hangout as well, Anthony.
Doesn't matter. All my information is publicly available. I'm not afraid. It makes no odds to me.
Gem Panda's a clever baller. He's like, what you guys... He's telling them to boycott the chat too. He's like, you can't just boycott the hangout, panel. You got to boycott the chat as well because he's saying they're giving us content.
Sean can't help it though because all I have to say is say hi, Sean, and it triggers him, and he can't help it. Sean loves me too much.
Can you guys let's see if we can hear from Adam? No, he's already been sniped on his second account. Sorry, as you were.
Yeah, they think that handing out numbers to people to call us up throughout the middle of the night and harass us constantly, they think this is going to stop us from just producing videos and showing the flat earth. I mean, this is the derangedness that they've gone to, where everybody seems to know our telephone numbers and we get called constantly. I've had people calling me up saying that they're going to kill me, they're going to rape my mother, they're going to stab my dad's eyes out. Yeah, it's not nice when all you're trying to do is just put some videos out there.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, do they do this to people that believe, for example, and not limited to, we went to the moon? Do they do this to people that believe, but not limited to, there is a God and we call him Jesus Christ or Allah or whatever God you worship and believe to be true? No. You don't stand there outside church on a Sunday morning saying, I've debunked God. Do you, hell? You let them do it. It's got none of your business what people believe. Your views are irrelevant. So why would you think it's okay to stop us from talking about what we believe to be true and can prove to be true? Not believe, prove.
Sorry, Joven has just put in the chat, it says, nobody is calling you fool, stop lying. But just a little bit further up, we have Mark Taylor saying...
Mark Taylor is
he's given out my telephone number. 01253, blah, 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 blah. And then a bit further up, he's put, I'm not the only one calling you, Ranty.
Yeah,
so,
you are, Matt Taylor.
So, no, but I'm just saying. So if he's saying that he's not the only one calling me, that's proving that they do call me. So, Joven, thank you very much for lying in the chat.
And there you go, Matt Taylor's
A4 said
there's Mark Taylor. There's Mark Taylor doxing my mobile phone number, Thomas Williams, 07877 065 213. That's my mobile phone number, and Mark Taylor's doxing me with it right now. So feel free to ring me, everybody. There's my phone number, and Mark. In fact, actually, I'm just going to report that one there for harassing. So report this one for harassment or bullying, harassment. There you go, Marcus. This is harassing me, reported. Report Mark Taylor. There you go. I know nothing will happen to it. I know it'll still be there. But I just want everyone to know that Mark Taylor is literally doxing people right now in chat because he's... Do you know what, Marcus? You're not even worth... You're not worth
putting out your phone number. That's not allowed.
No, he's put my landline number.
Oh, you gambled too far, Mark Taylor.
A4
your
said
stupidity just bit yourself in the ass.
Riley isn't sure.
A4 said he had joined the panel.
Useless.
He was just going to confirm that there is a page full of flat Earth addresses and personal information. He was just going to confirm that, I guess, is what he's saying.
Well, they use it as a weapon, but the reality is all you've got to do is put my name in on Google and you can find me within 2 clicks. Like, probably 1 click, actually, because I've got a limited company. It's registered. It's publicly available information. You can find me in 1 click. So, I mean, I can't hide behind being doxxed, but on the other hand...
Wait, someone just died in America over, someone gave a false address and the guy got a swatting. They called the SWAT team, police, to the guy's house, and they got shot and killed. And, people are still, they don't care. They're still just, giving out addresses and phone numbers and personal information because, they're complete psychos. I don't understand how you can just have, no empathy for someone and do something like that to someone. That's so messed up.
Well, you lose all your character. You lose your emotions. You lose your conscience. You lose your shame. You lose everything. And all that's left is just a skeletal troll that can do nothing but, well, basically pump out piles of crap everywhere.
I believe
you've
had phone calls as well, haven't you, Arwen?
Sorry?
They've been phoning you too?
Tim tried to phone me last summer, yeah. I'm pretty sure it was him. He did his Indian voice. But yeah, after that he stopped. I know what numbers do that, and I just hang up immediately. So he stopped doing it.
Yeah, Matt tries ringing me as well. And he tried ringing me while I was on Nathan's show the other day. And he was saying, whilst he was literally ringing my phone, he was saying, "Answer the phone, fat boy." And I'm sat there looking at it ringing, and I realise it's Mark Taylor. And he thinks it's funny. And do you know what? I actually think I think it's funny. But he thinks it's a weapon. And the reality is, I'm looking at you, Mark Taylor, and I'm just laughing at you, thinking, what an absolute cuckoo you are. You are a cuckoo.
I think these social outcasts are they become.
He is cucked.
By the way,
by the Globe.
Can I just
watching the Globe rape everything that he is, and he loves it.
Can I just say to everybody, if everybody goes to Google and types in Mark Taylor postman convicted, and then read the article that pops up, it's describing a Mark Taylor from the down south somewhere. I can't remember exactly where it was, and he was charged with harassing.
Is this necessary to sink to their level?
Well, just read the MO of the bloke that's in the newspaper article.
Just don't sink to that level.
Right.
Don't put yourself in that position.
We can't prove that that's him. So
doesn't matter. Either way,
ultimately...
there's no need to. That's what they want. Yeah, these guys are already at that level. They want to drag you down to it. Now, I've been down to that level with Tim Osman. It's not a pretty place to be.
Well,
yeah, when Antonio
you just gotta say something.
When Antonio was doxing me, Ball Earthers were giving me Antonio's information until so I could dox him on my Hangout, but I didn't do it because how can I criticize Antonio for doxing me and then dox him? That's hypocritical. So people, I don't know, you don't. I don't know what my point is, but yeah.
Well, it appears now that we have Tim Osman in the back that's actually putting Anthony's details up full details in the.
Doesn't matter to me.
You don't know it's Tim Osmond, like, just because their name is Tim Osmond, because people make fake accounts of other people, so you can't really say who it. You shouldn't say who it is.
Check the
If it's-
subscribers.
If it smells like dog shit and it looks like dog shit, it's probably dog shit.
Or it's a Glober.
Really, Riley? Because I thought, what happened to your like ice cream analogy? Because don't you need evidence to believe something? And if anyone can make an account that says Tim Osmond and go into a hangout and post whatever, like, how can you just say that it's him? You know, you need better evidence.
It's a social suspicion. It's not science.
I've got to go with PMARS on this one, because PMARS, I don't know why you use Tim Osmond as an example, because you could say this firsthand, but in reality, you have suffered this more than anybody. So people accuse you of doing all of the things that occasionally you have admitted to doing. So you'll go in and you'll say, yeah, I did X, Y, and Z. And then someone will therefore assume that every single time that happens, it's you, and they'll blame you. And I would imagine that, you know, just being honest that you've done something a little bit naughty, leaving you in a position where everyone assumes you're the devil, is a horrible position to be left in, when you're constantly being accused of doing this and that and the other, and you're probably in bed or out with your mates or doing whatever you do and nowhere near a computer at the time. And, you know, I know this from experience with you personally, that I know you've not done something that you've been accused of. You know, you might have been chatting to me for an example, and you're being accused there and then of doing something vicious, and it's like, whoa, P. Mars isn't that guy. You know, he's just a guy.
There's like the reputations people have, but there's also like this community that I was talking about. They'll make fake accounts, and they'll have like, I've seen there's a fake account at Twitwit where they actually went to as far as like making the subs count the same as Twitwit's real account. Like, there's these people obsessed with making fake accounts, and then when they do make a fake account, they go around and they like do a bunch of horrible things, and then people will blame the person they think it is or whatever.
Jaron had that with his entire account. Do you remember when, this is 2 years ago approximately, Jaron Campanella of Jaronism had somebody literally mirror all of the videos that were on his account and start gaining subscribers and views, and was monetized. The whole shebang, a complete, not just a sock, a totally fake Jaronism.
I'm a good man. I'm live on with Nathan at the moment now. Have you not seen him live? Oh.
Is Jaron live now?
Well, I think they tried like sock cloning pretty much all flat earthers, so I've seen accounts of everyone, fake accounts, mine including. So
you mean to say you weren't the person muting me all the time, Arwin?
Me?
You were muting me constantly. I know you
might
were.
Have, but
I saw
I'm not
your
that
account.
Yet.
I saw you muting me. It's all documented.
Oh my god.
So a guy has a One Stop for Gamers account, which is mimicking one of Dread. You've Been Exposed, one of his accounts, his gamer YouTube channel or something. And then, so he used Dread's fake Dread channel and sniped another Flat Earth panel, which upset these people. And these people, I think this guy's name was Danny. He thought Dread had sniped his hangout, and like it caused all this like a huge fight, and the Globe Earthers are just laughing because they caused a huge fight with their fake accounts, and they like get off on, you know, messing up people's lives, I guess, or something, like, or causing drama.
It makes you wonder, though, for people that just don't believe in the flat Earth, why would they hang around flat Earth? Why wouldn't they just go and do something different with their lives? Why is it so important for them to come on and debate?
Because they're neurotically compelled to do so. Because they are religious fanatics, and they have this neuroses ingrained in their entire being, subconsciously, to pretty much latch on and try to destroy anything that conflicts with their religion. They don't even know it themselves. That's what that is. That's just why they do it.
Just in case you lot were wondering, that phone call wasn't actually Mark Taylor on this occasion. It was somebody else. He doesn't ring this time of the day. He only rings at silly hours in the morning.
I'm going to turn down the Skype side of this hangout just to do my final link. So there's approximately 10 minutes left on this live stream. If you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these live shows while they are live. But most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, there is a link in the info box below this video. With the page you are currently watching on mute, simply click that link to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. As I say, if you've not done so already, please share the show, and if you've not done so already, please subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. There is approximately 10 minutes left on this broadcast.
I mean, I don't believe that the moon landings are real, but I don't go and stalk NASA.
Or Gem Panda for that instance, for that point.
Yeah. And, you know, I mean...
There's plenty of NASA locations and NASA museums and all that stuff that we could actually go out and explore at some point if we got some proper funding to do this. But we could actually go and stalk NASA.
Yeah, but this is a good lesson for the public in general anyway, that when you have a strong truth like this, how will the opposition try to go about stopping it? This is what they will do. So, you know, you have 120 odd people watching, people who are eager to find the truth, and it's being prevented. This is what, you know, the system does to control their paradigm. And this is a small paradigm that it seems to be growing, and they're desperately panicking to put a pause or to halt. They simply think that it will go away. If we do this, you know, this thing, it will just go away and we'll forget about it. But I think as long as we present the information and show that we're not on a ball, that we see things that we shouldn't see, I think that's what will win the debate overall anyway. Not this back and forth, you know, having a heated argument over something that's apparent. Yeah, so the opportunity is there for challengers to, if they think that there's an error, yeah, of course, that's welcome. But overall, I think there's really nothing to quarrel over, because if we can see what we can see, that's it, end of subject. That's where they don't want people to see that. So yeah,
they just fall back to their math then.
Yeah, the people, they're not going to buy that for much longer.
They believe in the math, and they believe that the math always correlates with the actual observations and reality. And when it doesn't, they just don't look at it and fall back to their math. That's what they always do.
Yeah, their science, their beliefs, it's been phased out. This, for me, is the beginning of the end for their paradigm. It's being slowly phased out. This is, you know, people won't take a ball earther seriously, just as people will say, do you remember when people thought the Earth was a ball? You know, this is how it's changing. The paradigm is shifting. Because if you ask any flat earther now, it's almost ridiculous that you even thought such a thing. And it's already happening. So if you have a population of people who think, you ask someone, do you think you're on a ball? It's going to seem ridiculous. That's how it's going to be. And that's where
there will be doubt. There will be some doubt in a great amount of people that have never even heard of or never dove into flat earth or anything, because of the flat earth YouTube thing and these debates. There's just a greater likelihood that if you talk to somebody on the street and ask about the ball, that they'll not just, yeah, of course, that would have happened like 10 or 20 years ago, but now flat earth is mentioned in media a lot. Even if in a form of ridicule, but it is getting to the forefront. People then, well, consider maybe looking into it for a moment, and many will stumble upon the giant dilemma that we're working on all the time, and that is, yeah, we don't know what the shape really is. We just know with absolute certainty it's not a ball. So people will eventually be more likely, even the ones that are not really into it, that they will answer, yeah, I heard that it's not a ball. And that's going to be their default then, eventually. That's what I believe.
We may have a guest in. Let's see if we can get a word from our new guest. How you doing, new guest? No, maybe not.
There's a machine gunner there. You can't get a word in.
So with about 4 minutes, 3 minutes left, who's gonna round out this debate then? This one-sided debate.
Hey, we got P. Mars here. It's not that one-sided.
That's true. This hasn't been. You know what, P? I'm so grateful for you being here. This hasn't been a circle jerk at all. You've been here.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the contrast to what we normally get, which is normally 8 ballers versus 1 flat earther. In this instance, there's been about 5 or 6 flat earthers and P. Mars. But this hasn't been a circle jerk. It's just been a contrasting show to the other shows. So it will continue in one form or another, and the debate will continue, regardless of what these snipers think they can achieve in the hangout side of this show, because there's 2 sides to the show. There always has been.
Yeah. And just I want to personally compliment P. Mars for turning out to be a pretty, how do you say, you have integrity, and I can really respect that. Yeah, you can actually be honest with yourself and with the facts as they are presented, and you can take apart your belief and your observation, and I can really respect that in a person.
Yeah, and I find it, you know, those who have ears, you know, you should listen, and those with eyes, if you could see what's happening right now, your ballers are preventing other free-thinking ballers to challenge what truth that we know that we say we have. So what does that tell you? Yes, there are gatekeepers. That's very telling. So use your ears, use your eyes, and it's more than just Tim Osman being a gatekeeper here. It's bigger than that. So yeah, if we can see things, yeah, go ahead.
And I just want to remind everybody, in a few weeks' time, when the word echo chamber is being bandied around, the in buzzword, I want to remind you guys that the echo chamber is simply the result of you guys doing what you're doing right now. So don't come back in a few weeks saying, oh, it's just a flat earth echo chamber. No, it's not. It's literally the reaction to you guys behaving the way you're behaving. You can't snipe us if we choose not to be sniped. We just allow you to snipe us because it makes you guys look bad. So we'll remind you of that in 4, 5, 6 weeks' time when you start saying, it's just an echo chamber, man. So you can take your girly ankles and disappear. We control what's going on, not you.
And with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and sharing this show. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.